Hello to everyone and welcome to the Master the Healing Power of Food. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so excited to be with you today. And so if you want to let me know where you're from, I'd love for you to post it in you'll see a chat box and tell me where you're from. You should see the chat box at the bottom of your screen. I see we've still got people jumping on right now. I've got Jean from Rhode Island, Shelly from Sacramento. Great to see you guys. Glad to have you here this morning. Thank you for sharing this time with me. It's going to be great. So I'm going to go ahead and we've got Megan from my hometown, Butte. So great to see all of you. And I'm Shaundi Borup, and I am a healthy living coach. I am passionate about food. I love healthy food. I love creating dishes that are nourishing and taste amazing. And so I want to share that with you today. I hope that what we talk about helps you as much as it has helped me. And so I'm going to share my screen now so that you can see the slides, and we're going to get going. And just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have questions or comments while we're talking, while I'm presenting this today over the next hour, then please put it in the chat, and I will answer questions at the end. And so here we go. So I'm, as I said before, I am very passionate about healthy eating, and I could go on and on about it, but one of the biggest blessings that I have is hearing from others and how I've shared my passion with them and how it's helped them on their healthy living journey. So I just want to start with a powerful story that one of my clients shared with me, and this is a letter she wrote, and I'm going to be reading her own words. And she said, "Don't live to eat, eat to live is the old adage. But so much of what we do in life and how we live revolves around food. Eating is a big part of that living. But how do we do that and stay healthy, fit, and happy?" That was a tough question for me. A simple night out with friends always included a meal. There were birthday parties, weddings, celebrations of all kinds that always included food. And we all know that sometimes we eat when we're tired or sad or happy, upset, lonely, or a myriad of other emotions, not just when we're hungry. She went on to say, "I was dealing with all of those, and I turned to food and picked up some bad habits along the way. I think I've been on every diet that was ever invented. The tools I've learned from Shaundi through her years of counsel and her recent videos and online forums have been life-changing for me. The weight is coming off, and I feel so much better. I have more energy, more peace with myself, and I feel like I'm finally on the right track. I've known for years that eating a plant-based diet was the best choice, but I've struggled to know how to fully implement it in my everyday life. How do you eat meals that are mostly vegetables, fruits, beans, and nuts and be satisfied? And more importantly, how do you make your family happy and teach them to enjoy it too?" These are all questions that I have had answered through participating in Shaundi's program. I finally have my chef husband on board. We're working together to take charge of our health and make food our medicine and help our bodies be their best. We don't make perfect choices every day, and we've got a long way to go, but we're definitely on the right track. Thank you, Shaundi. I'll be forever grateful to you for all that you've taught me, and as an added bonus, I will never diet again. It's a lifestyle choice. I'm eating to live and loving it. So it's letters and feedback like this that I get that is the reason why I do what I do. I love how far she has come in her journey. You see, health is a journey. It's not an event. Unlike a diet that has an applied ending, healthy living is something that you just do day in, day out, because the benefits make such a difference in all areas of your life. And so I want you to just really see what's possible today. I want you to think about what's possible for you and your health. And today, more than ever, we just have to be aware of what is going on in our body. When I changed my food, my life changed. And today, you're going to learn about what it looks like to increase your health span and how that will provide you with greater joy and happiness in your life. You're going to feel better than you have in years by implementing these simple steps to healthy living. And we all know that science and technology has helped us to add years to our life. But what I can show you through healthy living will add life to your years. By the end of this presentation, you're going to have a greater understanding of what you can do right now to improve the food that you put on your fork. You're going to see the benefit of increasing the time in your life when you feel healthy, instead of the slow decline that we see so prevalent today, in which most people consider to be normal. But I'm here to tell you it is not normal, but sadly, it is so common. We make excuses for being in pain, and we think that things are happening just because we're aging. The truth is that we have lowered our standards of health, and we're just putting up with symptoms. Today, you're going to walk away with a raised standard of health. If you learn nothing else but to raise the bar for yourself, you're going to improve your health, and it will affect all areas of your life. You see, my standard used to be lower, but today my bar is in the stars. I've combined ancient health wisdom and learned how to prep and make simple foods. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The fact that you're here on this call says that you're ready to see what it would mean, what it would look like to raise your standard of health. The single most important thing that is learning how to get the right food in your body, because every bite of food is your destiny. Every bite determines what your future is going to look like. And that doesn't mean we can't have an occasional treat or go out to dinner, but choosing our food mostly and eating from home is it's a decision that we make day in, day out. And I'm going to share examples and stories on how you can do this, because it's a cultural thing of where our standard of health is today. It is not your fault. You're bombarded with media that tells you it's no big deal to eat whatever you want. And I'm certainly not here to create fear. What I am here to do is just get you to see what's possible for you, and to know that it is urgent, because we need to deal with it now so that we can have a future that's free of chronic illness and disease. We can make up for lost time, and we can reverse chronic illness, and that is the good news. So I remember when I was at the crossroads. I was at a doctor's office again with my young daughter, and she was wheezing, miserable. I told the doctor that I noticed that she would get worse after I gave her milk or dairy, and I asked her if I should take her off of this and see if her symptoms improved. And then it happened. She looked me directly in the eye and she said, "It will not make any difference." That didn't sit well with me, and I knew I had to trust my gut and try it. I knew I was onto something when she didn't wheeze as much, and she had much less mucus production when she didn't have cow's milk. So I made a commitment to myself to explore the role of food, and that one decision changed my life. I started eliminating foods that were destroying my health and making my kids sick. I learned that building a strong immune system is the key to long-term health. You see, in my childhood, I had a lot of antibiotics, and antibiotics are great because they go in and they kill all the bad bacteria that's making us sick. What I didn't understand is that the antibiotics also go in and they destroy all of the good bacteria, which is our immune system. It's our defense system for fighting off viruses. And I learned that 80% of our immune system is in the gut. It's like we have an army in there, okay? We've got, I've got the slide here of a good guy and a bad guy. This is what your gut looks like, okay? We have an army in there. And when we have more bad guys than good guys, our ecosystem gets out of balance. And it brings on things like digestive issues, the bloating, the gas, our immune system is lower, like I described. it leads to mood swings, which, aren't usually favorable. And then inflammation begins to develop. And of course, we all know that inflammation leads to disease. And Hippocrates is the one who said that all disease begins in the gut. And so what I learned to do is to stop feeding the bad guys by eating all of the convenient processed and packaged foods that were easy. That is what I knew. And I started implementing foods that would populate my gut, make my, have more, make my good guys stronger, right? So I could populate that. And so what I saw happening over time is that my body was naturally able to do the things that it was supposed to do, like detox and get rid of the trapped toxins. And what happened after that was that my energy returned, and it was awesome. It was kind of like when we spring clean our house, that feeling when you get all the dirt out and you see the sunshine come through the windows. The longer I made these changes, the better I felt. And I watched my kids go from having ongoing and severe allergies and asthma to just a couple of mild colds a year. It truly was a miracle. And then I realized that the body is the miracle. When it's given nourishing food, it can digest and use, it can certainly thrive. I want you to think of a time that you wanted something really bad. Okay, it all started with a wish, right? And as this slide says, it takes as much energy to wish as it does to plan. The cool thing is that when you have a plan and you work at it, it's through that process that you see the benefit and you get supercharged, and that keeps you, gives you momentum to keep going. And then one day you'll look back and you see how far you've come and what a difference it has made. From taking the wish and making a plan and executing it. That's the same power that food has. You will feel the difference that it makes. You don't have to buy into the next miracle drink or the next fast fix, which so many of us get caught up in. We just have to eat simple whole foods and take time to practice simple, healthy living habits so that every day you can live a life free of chronic illness. So let me tell you the 3 topics we're going to cover today. First of all, we're going to talk about why making most of your meals at home is important and how it will improve your health. The next thing we're going to talk about is what is convenience really costing you? And then the last thing we're going to cover is how you can raise your standard of health. I know you're here for a reason. You want to figure out ways to improve your health, and I want you to envision what could be and show you how you can connect the dots and really change your life. So one of the things that we don't understand about, turning to convenience out of overwhelm is that when we haven't made the time to make our food at home, these convenience foods are actually destroying our health a bite at a time. And we don't understand, what is in them. So they use additives in food so that they have a longer shelf life, but they also put them in there to enhance make the color richer, enhance the flavor, the texture. And these ingredients are very toxic to the body. They contain, they're artificial colors, preservatives, chemicals. And so you may be wondering, well, what's the big deal with that? And the big deal is that the body doesn't recognize it as food. It knows immediately what to do when we put real food in the body. But so what it does with these additives, these chemicals, preservatives, is it can't digest them. So it stores them. And then later on, how those things are manifested is wherever we're genetically weak. And this leads to chronic disease or chronic illness and disease, which is why 1 in 5 people today are obese. And obese means that 30%, you have over 30% fat. And all of that, obesity then leads to other challenging problems that, just make us feel awful on a day-to-day basis. And also childhood obesity has tripled since the 1970s. And so, what are some of the benefits of making your food at home? In 2014, Johns Hopkins University, they did a study and concluded that people who cook most of their meals at home, they consume fewer calories, less sugar, and less bad fats. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're making most of our food at home versus eating out most of the time. And sadly, for the first time in history, that trend has reversed, and we are spending more money to eat out than we are on groceries. People who make their food at home also have less chronic conditions. And that just makes me want to say, yay, let's do it, because several studies show that there are many benefits in families, eating together, especially they talked about dinner. They did studies about family dinner. And so I want you to think back to your childhood. Do you remember setting the table or helping carry food from the counter over to the table? And a lot of that's just been lost today. First of all, when we eat at home, we consume more fruits and vegetables, which we're going to talk about later on. Those contain more phytochemicals and micronutrients that the body needs to thrive. It's also been proven that children are will do twice as better in school by eating at home around the table together. And talking also relieves stress, which improves our mental health, and it makes us more resilient, more positive, and more optimistic. And of course, that is what we want for ourselves and everyone in our family. But so we're faced, we live in this fast-paced world, and we suffer from what I call time poverty, because we are brainwashed to believe that we don't have enough time. And my husband and I have really made an effort to make eating together an experience. We slow down, we share the day, we savor new flavors, talk about our food, and just that feeling of love and comfort that comes from eating together and having good conversation. So as a society, we've been cooking less and less with every passing decade. And, it's easy to not cook because we have so many choices of prepared food, packaged food, the ability to go out. And so what's happened is we've lost the knowledge and even the ability to cook. And people think that cooking is popping something in the microwave, heating up a frozen dinner, or even making a bowl of cereal. And we've been fed that cooking is actually a chore rather than a fundamental need. Have you ever noticed that when you smell something good cooking in the kitchen, that you suddenly just feel better? And that's because it relieves stress. Now, I want you to remember walking into your grandma's house and smelling an aroma coming from the kitchen. What was that smell? Was it homemade bread, or perhaps it was grandma's special recipe? For me, it was my Nana's enchiladas. We would walk into her home after traveling to her house, and I could just feel her love for me and for her whole family as we all sat down to eat together. Now, I want you to contrast that with where you are today. Are you rushing home at the end of the day and picking up something on the way home because you're tired, you're out of energy, and everyone wants to eat right now? And then everyone just eats on their phone, watching TV, doing homework. What does that look like? And are you looking for a better way to connect together, to nourish yourself and your family? Even though we don't think we have enough time to prepare food, and you may be terrified that even when you do make the effort to make it, that nobody's going to like it, but this is what we have to do. We have to make it our number one priority if we want to have a future free of chronic illness and disease. What I do know, and what we all know, is that we're spending lots of time on screens, and whether it's our phone, our computer, TV, and that maybe it's just something that as simple as time allocation and, replanning how we do things, right? And perhaps, what is it you would like to know and about, what do you want for your health? Maybe you want to know how to come home and put together a meal in 30 minutes or less. Maybe you want to know how you can have that sustained energy all day so that when, all the things that you have to do are done, there's some time left and energy left to use that time to do what you want to do. So I believe that when we cook our own food and we eat together, that our bodies are healthier, and that it's a domino effect. Or then our families are healthier, our community, our environment, it trickles into everything. And we need to consider what convenience is costing us, because there's a huge trade-off. So I'm gonna stop the share now, and what I'd like you to do is list in the chat box, what is one thing that you can do right now to make more food at home? Maybe you're just eating together once a week, so maybe you can increase that to 2, or maybe it's just taking time to have a plan and go to the store and get things that you need so that you are prepared to make things at home. List something in the chat box that you can do right now to make more meals at home. Karen says having a menu plan, and that is so, so important. And then Shelley says, getting her daughter to the table, because again, we're conditioned in our society really to stay on this fast pace, even when we're home. And home needs to be that security, that place where we all just kind of can unplug and really connect. And food is a big way that we connect today. So thanks for sharing that, you guys. I really appreciate it. So the next topic is, what are we paying for the price of convenience? So this, says, yes, unhealthy food is often cheaper to buy, but more costly to your health. It's expensive to be sick on every level. So let's talk about, what does health span mean? And health span is the measurement of time in your life when you're healthy, instead of what we see so prevalent today, which is this slow decline. And, we're just not feeling very good. And we're just considering, like I said before, most people just consider this normal. And so what is the dream health span? What does that look like? So when I think of the dream health span, it's running around until you're 99 or even beyond that. And then one night you just go to sleep and you don't wake up. That is, a wonderful dream, but in America especially, and in many places throughout the world, that's not how we're experiencing it. Instead, many of us are spending the last several years in a horrible state. We don't have, where we don't have control of our body, and we're losing, basic body, mind, and functions. And so I want to share with you a story of a dream health span. This is Jack LaLanne. Now, Jack, when he was a child, he was addicted to sugar. And when he was 15, he had many of the typical things that teenagers face. He was scrawny, underweight, had a face full of acne, and he had aggressive and violent behavior. So he attended a lecture by a health nutritionist, and who told the audience members that they could feel amazing if they obeyed nature's laws by eating the proper food and moving their body every day. And the man looked directly at Jack, and he told him he was a human trash can. And Jack was so captivated by this and by what he heard that he decided that night to change his life. He stopped eating sugar. The next day, he joined the YMCA. By the time he was in high school, he had already opened his own gym. He became known as the father of fitness. I remember getting his giant book of exercises when I was a teenager. They were things that I could, you could do at home. And my dad even constructed me out of some 2x4s, this device that I could do calf exercises. And I remember watching Jack on TV as well. He had his own fitness TV show. He later developed his own juicer. He had a show to teach people how to eat more fruits and vegetables through juicing. And this is the cool thing about Jack. He, for his 70th birthday, he swam 1 mile, but not just swam it. He had he was towing 70 rowboats, and some of them were filled with people, and both his hands and his feet were shackled. And so he did some amazing things even later into his life, and he worked out. He had his same workout routine that he did every day up until the day before he left this earth at the age of 96. So you see, age is simply a number. Now let me show you something powerful that also has inspired my health journey. Look at this man, obviously not a spring chicken, right? And he is active and going into the pool. There's this thing called the Blue Zones. Have you heard of it? these are places throughout the world where people live the longest. There are five of these places on the planet today. Not only do people live the longest, but they also live a full life. And I'm not not in nursing homes, okay? So what are their secrets of longevity? They eat a plant-based diet. They engage in active routine of natural movement, which you see this man engaged in here. And they eat their relationships with family and friends and people in their community and people of faith renders a great sense of community, and it lengthens their lifespan. And they believe that a strong sense of purpose also leads to longevity. So they take time to spend time together, to eat together. Now, if you're listening today and you live alone, you can invite people over to share a meal with you. And there are many ways to have this sense of community. And so these are, I want you to think of what I've explained, I've given you 2 examples of a dream health span. What would you like for your health span? And I'm just going to take a minute, and I want you to share that in the chat. What would you like for your dream health span? Shelley says, needing to plan ahead. Okay, Jack LaLanne is inspiring. For me, my dream health span is what I've explained, is to just go until, I would like to live past 100, and I don't want to have any limitations in my body. I don't want to be on medications. I want to be able to have energy to do the things that I want to do. Shelley says 95 sounds good. But I just really want you to think what's possible for you, no matter what age you are right now. Corey says she'd like to be pain-free and active as long as she can. And Corey, I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to talk about sitting. Okay, sitting. They've done a lot of studies about sitting, and it has many of the same effects as smoking does on our body, because with the advancement of technology, we find ourselves in front of screens more often, and so naturally we're sitting. You'll notice today that I'm standing. I have a desk that raises up or lowers down so that I can use both sitting and standing. And so if you do have a job that where it's required that you be at a desk or in front of a screen, try to get an adjustable desk where you can spend a big part of your day standing. And if that's not possible, then get up and just move every hour. Take a brisk walk for like 2 to 5 minutes, and you will notice your mental clarity will improve so much. And there's just so many advantages to that. Okay, so Jean says, I want to live a happy, healthy life until 100 without meds and pain-free. Barbara says, enjoying life without pain, as long as the Lord blesses her to be here. Thanks for sharing all of these. These are just great. And so, as we've been talking about, it costs money to stay healthy, but it's even more expensive to get to be sick. And so, what does that look like? Let's talk about what is the cost of being sick, and what does it cost us physically? When we don't feel our best, then it's just something that the things get put on the back burner, right? Because you just have to let some things go. And a lot of people explain to me how they just, they put off taking care of themselves because they've, their schedule is full. And, if you'll remember, I sent out an email about when I had to go get my tooth pulled. I ignored what my tooth was telling me, that something was wrong, and I just kept putting it off. And it would have just been a simple filling, but I ignored it, and it ended up costing me a lot in time and money. And we've all had those things that we've ignored. And the problem is that when we're feeling yucky, you're right, it's a domino effect. We often will, we have low energy, we'll sleep poorly, our sugar cravings increase. All of these things, we get sucked into doing things the way that we've always been doing them, and life is dragging us along. So, let's face it, it costs us a lot. And let's talk about the financial cost. I hear that eating healthy is too expensive. And, you know, when it comes to your health, if you don't learn anything else from things I teach you, it's going to more money in medical bills. And whether you're going to a doctor, dealing with a chronic illness, you know, medications that you have to be on for the rest of your life, all, you know, if you have chronic health conditions, they're a lifestyle illness, and they don't have to control your life. You can change some things that you're doing, and you can reverse these. Let's talk about type 2 diabetes, okay? Because 1 in 10 adults has it today, and that number is rising every single year. And hopefully you're not one of those 10. But if let's just say you're diagnosed at the age of 50 and you live to be 70. So you've got to finance taking care of diabetes for 20 years. The cost is $16,750 a year. So 20 years later, you're going to spend over $300,000. Now you might be thinking, well, I have insurance, and yes, some of that will be covered, but your insurance premiums will be high. And just think of the amount of time that you're going to spend going to doctor's appointments, pricking your finger, checking your blood sugar. You know, it's a micromanaged disease, and it is not fun for anyone. Let's take a look at cancer. So you see this man looking at 2 meals. You know, he says, if you think healthy living is expensive, have you priced cancer lately? You know, nearly half of the population today has 1 or more chronic health conditions, such as diabetes, obesity, or cancer. We have an epidemic of chronic illness, and things like allergies and asthma and, you know, autoimmune disease, all of these lead to disease. And it's just so sad. 60 million people have allergies, 30 million have asthma, 24 million are suffering from autoimmune disorders. And so, but there are things that we can do, starting with the food that we put into our body, that can really change, you know, our future and having to deal with them today. Look at this graph of chronic health conditions. 84% of our health costs are due to chronic illness. And chronic illness it's a lifestyle illness. It's something that you can change, and that's the good news. And so if you know, those of you who may have grown up on a farm or grown up around animals, or if you live now where you can play in the dirt and be around animals outside, this actually strengthens our immune system. And you're less likely to have chronic inflammatory conditions. So my thought is, let's all get out and play in the dirt today. Make sure you spend time outdoors. And so I want to tell you about a cool study that they did at Tufts University. They followed a group of adults ages 35 to 80, and they subsidized their food plan with fruits, vegetables, seafood, whole grains, and other healthy foods. And what they found is that this group of adults relied less on healthcare when they had these foods given to them. And so what would that look like if we did that for a year? We would have over 3 million less cardiovascular events, 620,000 less deaths, and 120,000 less cases of diabetes, which would save the U.S. system $100 billion. And this is a quote from Dr. Mark Hyman. He says, chronic disease is a foodborne illness. We ate our way into this mess, and we must eat our way out. And that's what's exciting, is that investing in your health is so much cheaper than investing in your sickness. Wouldn't it be cool if we could go to the doctor like they did in this study and get a prescription for food, and your insurance company would pay for it? I love that idea, and I really was fascinated by that study. So let's talk about other ways that it is costing us, okay? Wasting food, and I hear this from a lot of people, is that they will buy fruits and vegetables and then they go to waste in their refrigerator. And you'll notice over on the right, it says 40 to 50% of our waste globally comes from fruits and vegetables, which is really sad, since that's where most of the nutrients that our body needs comes from, right? So, you know, globally, we're throwing out 1.3 billion tons of food a year, and that's about 1/3 of what we grow. That can fund a family vacation just by simply eating what you purchase. And, you know, a family of 4, their average waste that they throw away is $1,500 a year. So just think of where you could go with that $1,500 and start planning it today. And so what you need to do is stop throwing away food and learning how to use what you buy. I can show you how to do that. It's actually one of my favorite things. One of my specialties is taking leftovers from the night before, changing it up a little bit, making it taste completely different the next day. And so let's talk about the emotional cost. Let's consider the decline in the quality of your life. What does it look like when you have to call in sick, consecutively, or you're not able to continue your employment? Or what about the retirement that you anticipate? You think of your emotional and mental health, because when you don't feel good, it affects all the other areas of your life. It also affects your relationships, which affects your overall happiness. Chronic illness will control your life, but it doesn't have to. The good news is it's preventable. You simply have to be aware of what's going on in your body and make changes that'll make a huge difference in the quality of your life. Let's talk about what it's costing us in time, okay? It's expensive to be sick in every way that we've talked about, but it especially robs our time. I would love for you to share in the chat box which area is costing you the most. Is it financial, physically, mentally, emotionally, in your relationships? Which area is most affected by your health issues? And I'm going to look at the chat box and see. Yeah, when you share in the chat box, make sure you're sharing to all. You have to click on the down button and click on all panelists and attendees. Okay, got some answers here. It's costing financially. Yes, the cost of constant, physically and emotionally. So I'm hearing a variety of ways that it's costing us. And that's the sad thing, is that once our health starts to decline, then it's going to cost us in all of these areas. We're going to be, seeing this. And it is just, it takes away from what we could truly be enjoying in our life. So thank you for sharing that. So our third topic is about our health standards. So this picture depicts, exactly what you feel like when you're out of energy, right? So what is your normal? Think about that for a moment. Low energy is probably the #1 standard of health that people are dealing with today. People are suffering from low energy, but they don't know what to do about it. And how has energy literally been sucked out of us? I will tell you how. There's a study show that the majority of Americans get half of their calories from processed and packaged foods. And even worse, they get less than 5% of their calories from fruits and vegetables. So let's just think about that for a moment. You've got, over on the one side, you've got over half of your calories from processed foods and from processed and packaged foods, and less than half from fruits and vegetables. You combine the lack of micronutrients and phytochemicals that are in the colorful produce to the exposure of all the toxins in the processed foods, and it's a no wonder that we suffer from low energy. I can walk you through easy steps to healthy living that'll help you feel better than you have in years. I'll show you how to use a healthy living template that you can put in motion in morning and evening routines. And these simple habits, what they do is they not only increase your energy throughout the day, but they help you sleep better. And then it enables you to live a life without limitations. And then, of course, the next day you have even greater energy. We all know how much better we feel after a good night's sleep. So what are most of us doing when we have low energy? We're turning to sugar. And the unfortunate thing about sugar is that we get that energy surge that we need, but then we also get the energy crash. And so what happens is the next time when we feel the crash and we still have to, have that pick-me-up, right, to function, to get through the day, we end up having to eat more sugar to get to that same level of energy that we were the previous time. And so it's this vicious cycle. And so I'm going to share with you 3 foods that you can start eating today instead of turning to sugar that will actually promote energy in your body. And the first 2 are nuts and seeds. So nuts and seeds have they provide protein, but they also provide, nutrients and vitamins and minerals and things that the body needs, the healthy fats, right, to help the brain be strong and vital throughout the day. We all attribute brain fog and forgetting things to aging. But really what it is it's too much inflammation in the body, and your gut and your brain are constantly connecting. It's like they have a walkie-talkie between them and sending messages. And so that's why what I talked about earlier is by getting your gut healthy, populating, getting your army really strong in there where you have more good guys than bad guys, then what happens is that the signals that they send to the brain they help the inflammation decrease, and then your brain is stronger and you remember things throughout the day. And so I can teach you, how to prepare these nuts and seeds, because when we soak them and even sprout them, then the body gets even more benefit. The body digests them easier. And some of you may have a health condition where you cannot eat nuts and seeds, and I can also help you with that. But and it takes so little hands-on time. That's the beautiful thing about it. And we get so much benefit. And the third food that I want to share with you is quinoa. So quinoa is a complete protein. And this beautiful picture is from one of the members of my Facebook group. And you may have seen the video I did called One Chicken, 3 Meals. And if you haven't, it's going to be on my YouTube channel, so you can see it there. But I made a dish in here that was made with quinoa, and that's what this big pan has in it. And you see all the vibrant, beautiful vegetables that are in there as well. And she also posted that she made this for her family, and it was a hit. Everyone loved it. Quinoa is a complete protein. And what's beautiful about quinoa is we use it as a grain, although it's not a grain, it's actually a seed. But quinoa cooks in very little time, and when we soak and sprout it, it just has so much nutrition for the body, and it's so versatile. You can use it in so many different ways, and I can show you that how you can make simple meals using quinoa as well. And so I wanted to take a moment, and if you can take out the list that you made of your nagging health concerns. If you got that email a few weeks ago, I asked everybody just to make a list of nagging health concerns. I'm going to share with you some of the ones that I have heard about. These are bloating after meals, not having a good bowel movement every day, bad breath, heartburn, painful joints, headaches, dandruff, dark circles under your eyes, dry skin and rashes, ridges in your fingernails, forgetfulness. Again, just take a piece of paper and write down, what are some of the nagging health concerns that you put up with every day that are actually symptoms or signals. These symptoms are signals that your body is telling you that something is not right. I want to share with you a story of a lady who came to me with sugar cravings late at night. She has a little bit of excess weight that she just couldn't seem to get off no matter what she tried. She was dealing, her blood pressure was a little higher than it should be. She was sleeping poorly, and she had some pain in some of her joints. So we sat down together, talked about what she wanted for her life, and we created a plan that would work for her. And I was there throughout, the time and supported her through each step. And after working together for 6 months, she had a system in place that helped her make consistent, healthy choices and feel better than she has in years. She reported back to me that she's sleeping better, her body's starting to let go of the unwanted pounds, and she doesn't have the late night cravings. So I want to talk about the story of the 2 frogs. You may be familiar with them. The first frog, they put the frog in a pan of water, and then they just gradually increased the heat. And the frog did not notice that the water was getting hot until all of a sudden the water was too hot, and the frog could not get out. And then the second story is they put the frog directly into the boiling water, and the frog knew immediately that it wanted to not be in there and made a change. And in this case, for the frog, it jumped out. And so too many people are living with the nagging health concerns like the ones that you have on your list and not paying attention to their body. And then someday they're going to get a diagnosis and it's just going to be too late. We're caught in a culture, in the culture of not listening to our body, but it doesn't have to be that way. So which frog are you? I want to share a very personal story. My father-in-law taught at a university for years. He was a founding leader in gerontology and the author of many books. He was super dedicated to his work, but I watched him abuse his health year after year by not taking care of himself and eating all the wrong foods. Finally, he retired, something for, but he didn't get to enjoy it. He died just 3 months after retiring and spending that time in bed suffering from cancer. So many people are finishing their life like this or living years in a nursing home with little physical and mental capacity. He put up with those nagging health concerns for years, and he ignored the signs of slow decline, like the frog in the first story. He ignored the signs for years and years until one day it was too late. So I can help you avoid this and live out your dream health span. We're talking about energy in this last topic, right? And the goal is to have sustained energy. What would it look like if you could have that, sustained energy and focus? I wish you could understand how much energy that I have. I don't use caffeine or other stimulants to get through the day. I'm, totally passionate, love what I do. My body doesn't hinder me. I don't have limitations. I just wish you could spend a couple hours in my shoes and get a sense of what it actually feels like to feel good. See, when I get sick, let me tell you what I do. Even though I eat healthy foods, when I feel something coming on and a virus or something, I know what to do. I make immediate changes, and I eat different foods so that my body can use all of its energy to repair. Usually I go to bed and just sleep it off, and in about 24 hours, I'm ready to, usually good to go again. So recently I had plans to attend a very important 3-day workshop. And we all know what it's like, right? When we're getting ready to go out of town, you're burning the candle at both ends, trying to get things ready to go. And lo and behold, the day before I was supposed to go, I felt a cold coming on. So I took immediate action to give my body, every tool that I knew of so that it could cleanse and also repair. And I should not have been able to get on that plane, but I did. I was at about 90%. And I know you're thinking I probably was on Dayquil or other stimulants, right, to keep my body going, but that's not how it happened. I drank water. And again, like I said before, I changed the foods that I was eating so that my body could use that energy for repair. When I got to the workshop, my mind was clear. I was able to focus on the material. And that for me was an aha moment. That my high health standard of taking care of my body on a consistent basis had given me the power to do what I wanted to do and to make that trip. And that's what I love about healthy living, because it continues to increase my health span. And now let's talk about weight, because, weight is another, plays a critical role, right, in how we feel every day and how we're going to feel in the future. We have to have a set point, that gauge where if we're getting to hit that red line, then we need to do something about it. The problem is that most of our gauges are broken today because packaged and processed food, this convenience that we turn to, it's like desensitizing our bodies. Our gauge is just pretty much stopped working, right? And that it has changed our taste buds, and so we don't even have a palate for healthy food, and so it's just this vicious cycle, and we just continue to put on more weight, and then the health conditions start coming, those chronic conditions that are changing the quality of our life. And so, and what happens is that we just quietly give up. So, why aren't people prioritizing food today? And I think it's because they have the lack of knowledge on how to apply it. And, I think as a people, we've been conditioned to believe, again, like I talked about earlier, that we don't have enough time. So we just continue to do what's easy. But making the food a priority will make a difference. I know for me, I wouldn't do it any other way because I've seen the benefit. And if I ate convenient and processed food much of the time, it just wouldn't be worth it. And I know that, so it can be overwhelming, right? We're standing at the grocery store. There's an onslaught of conflicting nutritional information out there. And so, you know, it's just easier to throw up our hands, right? And just give up and just do what we know is easy. You know, I think overwhelm is felt by all of us in varying degrees. And, you know, here's a lady that says, I smile to hide how completely overwhelmed I am. Because, you know, depending on where you're at, you know, you may have been trying something for a while and a new regimen, and it's working for you. And then, you know, you hear something about how it's not good for you. And so you just, you know, you feel like you're just spinning your wheels. And, you know, not taking time to plan, like we talked earlier, well, it'll just keep you in that cycle where we're always chasing what we're going to eat next. And so to take overwhelm off of our plate, what do? We turn to convenience. But what I can show you how to do is eat less from a box and more from the earth. Now, at the beginning of the webinar, I posted in the chat box the link where you can go to my calendar and make an appointment to get on a free discovery call with me, and we'll talk about, you know, where you're at, where you want to go, and how I can help you get there in less time. And so I just want to mention that it's in the chat box. I'll post it again at the end. Now, as we know, when we want to accomplish anything, we have to put certain things in place, right? That increases our chance to be able to succeed. So I spent a huge amount of time figuring out what I was going to teach on this webinar. And, you know, here's why. Because part of me just wanted to jump right in, teach you all the food you need to remove from your kitchen right now, and all the foods you need to bring in there. And because there are foods sitting in your pantry that are toxic and poisonous to your body. And there are also foods that are not in your kitchen that are preventative for chronic illness, and they'll increase your whole family's health, and they actually taste good. These aren't random substitutes, but you know, I know how to do this and how to make things taste really good. But there's the part of me that wanted to jump right in and teach you that right now, and I realized that I'd be leaving you hanging, because, you know, what are you going to do when you still don't know how to prepare the food? There's so many more steps. It's about 6 months worth of steps, and for you to, you know, get the process down, understand how to, so that it can become automatic and systematic for you. Because we all know that, you know, food heals or it destroys. And that's the most important thing that I want you to learn in this process, that food has the power to heal. There is no magic bullet. Now, a lot of people will tell you that you know, there is a magic bullet, because you see them coming around all the time, the one thing that's going to solve all of your health issues. But what we need is a variety. We need to get back to basics, right? And a variety of healing foods will give you a life full of energy and free of chronic disease. It's pretty simple. You know, it's just like going to a symphony. Imagine you went to a symphony one night and you're, you know, waiting to hear the whole orchestra, and only the trumpet section shows up, right? And you need the whole orchestra to be able to have that, you know, symphony sound that you're looking for. It's the same with food. We need a variety of all different kinds of foods to prevent illness. And the way to increase our energy through food is, first of all, we have to know what we're eating, okay? We need to know what we're putting into our body, and to not continue putting those same toxins and poisons in. And that's the problem with going out to eat more than we eat at home, right? Restaurants use they use a lot of things like really bad oils that clog up our liver and do a lot of other damage. But when we learn how to prepare our foods at home, and then we can eat these meals and have another way to increase energy is by having an amount of time between meals. When we're constantly eating or constantly snacking, the body doesn't have a chance to regulate blood sugar. And we're also, most of the time, we're turning to snacks that are raising our blood sugar too high. And so, but in order for you not to snack between meals, you have to know how to make a meal that has a balance of macronutrients so that your body isn't craving something between meals. And I can help you put together a plan that will reach you to that goal. And then, some of you may be saying, well, I don't really like cooking. Okay. Well, that's like saying you don't brush your teeth because you don't like to brush your teeth. Food is something the body needs every single day. And so it's a process that we all need to learn how to master. Our culture is set up to where we have easy access to these foods. But now we with all we've talked about today, we understand how these are the foods that are the worst possible for us, and that they are driving the chronic illness and disease that we see so prevalent. Now, my entire life is prioritized around getting the healthiest foods in my body. And so, I've just decided I am not going to make an excuse for that. It's like brushing my teeth. It's not necessarily something I want to do day in and day out, but I know the benefits. So it's just become part of my daily routine. That's what food needs to be. You have to put the steps in place. And once you do, that's the cool thing. You see the benefit, and you just don't let a day go by without making those things happen. And so we've talked about how, overwhelming all of this conflicting advice can be, and we're going to constantly be faced with it. And so the way you solve it is that you come and you learn tried and true foods to make meals that are never going to fail you the rest of your life. I studied with a holistic healing educator who's for over 20 years, and he was an expert in traditional Chinese medicine. And that study goes back over 5,000 years. And that's what really resonated with me, is that I was stuck, just like you are, in the convenience of processed food because it was all I knew. I didn't understand that these symptoms that were manifesting in my body was just telling me that something was wrong, and that, I kept putting a Band-Aid on it, and that was never going to get me to lasting health. And I remember going to the doctor with, I had tendonitis in my wrists, and he handed me a prescription, and I said, so how long do I take this? And he said, for the rest of your life. And that was another turning point for me. I went home, got on the phone with my mom, and I was just like blown away because I was only 28 at the time. I was way too young, and I just took a stand for myself. I was not going to allow this to take over my life. And I knew that medication for the rest of my life was not the answer. So, and again, we talk about those magic bullet, the miracle fixes. I knew that wasn't the answer either. It was just getting back to and learning how to prepare simple foods that would heal my body. And I watched it happen. So just like at the beginning of this presentation, you saw the road. We all have a decision to make which road we're going to take, right? I didn't know the answers, so I found someone who did, and I learned until I got a good understanding of how food is medicine. My job is to help you facilitate that decision-making process so that you never get stuck, you never stop. And research shows, that what makes us happy is achieving small goals one after another. And that's what healthy living is. It's practicing simple steps. Don't put your health on the back burner any longer. Your life depends on it. I want you to picture a day when you can wake up feeling your best and have sustained energy throughout the day. If I could convey anything as we're coming to an end of this today, is that you can actually feel amazing. And the number one way to do that is to get the right food in your mouth every day. You don't have to be part of the 70% that are living with a chronic condition due to lifestyle. So a healthy life is possible for everyone. And I'm glad that you're taking the time today to think about it. And now you have a chance to do something about it. What we talked about today is that most of your meals, when cooked at home, that will improve your health, okay? Convenience is costing you your health and creating chronic illness. You can raise your health standards and increase your health span. Here's what we know. We know that in order to do that, to master the healing power of food, you have to get back into the kitchen. You know there's a healthy you inside of you. You know you're ready to increase your energy and your health span. You know you want to live free of chronic illness and disease, and you don't want this to keep you from living your life. You want to feel better in your genes, let's face it, right? That's just a simple thing that makes us all feel better. You want to be able to walk up a flight or two of stairs and feel invigorated instead of wiped out. And you know that a year from now, you may have wished that you started today. This is how you raise your standard of health. Okay. I want you to live free of chronic disease. My goal is to make sure that your future is creating one that you want, whether that's chasing your grandkids around, going on hikes, traveling. You want to have the energy, or putting your kids to bed at night and still having mental and physical energy to do some things that you want to do, whatever that looks like to you. I can help you unlock it. Success is at your fingertips. So whatever you do, take action now. Now, you could do nothing. You can just stay where you're at. You can try to take the information that I gave you today, and I know you can be successful. You can do it on your own, or you can work with someone like me who can literally get you to your goals sooner. You can watch videos that help you, show you how the meals in your kitchen, or you can have someone be virtually in your kitchen that will make food with you, giving you ongoing support so that you can feel confident. And this is how I can help you have that dream health span that we talked about earlier. I'm going to end with this. It's a quote from Jack LaLanne, and he says, "Anything in life is possible if you make it happen." So I'm gonna post in the chat box again the link to where you can make an appointment with me to get on a free call, and let's talk about where you're at, where you'd like to go, and how I can help you get there. Healthy living is possible, and I want it for you. And I'm thank you for joining us today, and may the rest of your day be beautiful and joyous. Get outside and enjoy every moment. Here's to healthy living. We'll see you guys. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.